Hi, everybody.
Someone close the doors back there. Someone close the doors on the way in.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So this is the Paizo Incorporated.
Say Paizo.
The Paizo 2014 and beyond seminar, where we want to kind of go over some of what's coming up, kind of corral a few of the announcements we've made throughout the show, probably drop a few more as while we're at it. And I guess one thing I will say before we get started is, how many of you guys have seen the Paizo catalog? Anyone? We've got these at the booth. This goes all the way through, I'd say, about March-April of next year. So there's a lot more information about many of the products that we're going to be talking about in this book. It's for free. They'd be happy to give it to you down at the Paizo booth in 203, which I'm also happy to say you can finally get into without standing in an hour long line.
Unfortunately, we don't have any advanced class guides left.
Yeah, there are still not an advanced class guide. Yeah. Well, and not just that, but there's a host of beautiful products still waiting at the Paizo booth. I'm Eric Mona. I am the publisher of Paizo. Before we get started, I'd like the illustrious panel here to introduce themselves, and we'll start with Wes.
I'm Wes. I'm Wesley Schneider. I'm the editor-in-chief at Paizo.
I'm Shane Friest. I'm the director of marketing and PR at Obsidian Entertainment. The one guy here not wearing a blue shirt.
We're black together. I'm Lisa Stevens. I'm the CEO of Paizo, which is why I'm on the blue shirt, because I'm the boss and I can do whatever I want. It's good to be queen sometimes.
Like I said, I'm Eric Mona. I'm the publisher. That makes me a boss, but not the boss, so I'm wearing blue.
Join the club. I'm Jason Bowman. I'm the lead designer at Paizo. Paizo Inc.
Paizo. Just Paizo. So that's something that's new about Paizo. We changed the name of our company. I don't know if you guys know that. We're Paizo Incorporated now instead of Paizo Publishing. For really two reasons. One, we changed the corporation of our company, right? So we're not a limited liability corporation anymore. We're like
It was a money thing.
Corporation.
It's all about how much money I pay to the government.
Really what it was about is that when we were making that just sort of superficial change, we took a look at everything we're doing, and we thought that what Paizo has become kind of goes beyond just publishing. We've got web store, we're getting into computer stuff. So, everybody calls us Paizo anyway, so we'll call us Paizo. And probably for the next decade or so, I'll still call us Paizo Publishing because I can't get it out of my head, and we won't hold it against you if you do the same.
At least your shirts will.
Yeah. Let's see. Big news. Let's start with, I think, the biggest news, frankly, and the reason we have Shane here at the panel is right before the con we announced a ongoing partnership with Obsidian Entertainment to do some computer game stuff, and I'd like Shane to talk about that a little bit.
So, hi. Who here is familiar with Obsidian and what we do? Awesome. That's great. So for those of you that didn't raise your hand, Obsidian Entertainment, we are primarily a role-playing game developer. It's the team that started out at Black Isle Studios, which was a division of Inter. Black Isle, which did games like Planescape Torment, the Icewind Dale series. They created the Fallout franchise, the Fallout 1 and 2. Then, as that core group of people started their own company, which is Obsidian, our first game was Nightfall Republic 2, then we went on to do Fallout New Vegas, we just did South Park. So, we never went on to 2 as one of our big hits. So, we've basically been doing these types of games for a really long time. It's pretty neat because the studio was started by guys that were each and every one of them, hardcore, pen and paper, D&D guys, and they came up as testers. So they sort of run the ranks from any one of you or any one of us to basically making great role-playing games at sort of the highest level that the industry could do. So we've done a lot of different things with a lot of licenses, and the funny story I'll tell is that when you work in the game industry, that game companies typically fall into two categories, and there's also a little bleed over. There's the companies that they go out and drink a whole lot, and there's the companies that spend all their free time gaming a whole lot. And when you work in sort of like one half of the industry, you always kind of want to be in the other half. So when I got to, and I've worked at both sides of this, but I've seen the AA you stop gaming and go home to your wife. You usually go to Alcoholics Anonymous or something like that. So.
Is that the difference between a AAA title and a AA title?
No comment. So no, I've been around like a lot of people like to play games before. But the funniest thing when I got to Obsidian, and we had these really weird offices. It used to be a 24-hour fitness. It's ironic. And it used to be. And so it's got really funky office. Like everything's like corridors and like oddly shaped meeting rooms and really big ones. And I swear to God, every lunch hour, every single meeting room is just happy full of people playing Pathfinder. Like everyone. Like there's like every day, the owners play it. Everyone from the owners to the testers. There's probably 3 to 4 active Pathfinder games going on any given day of the week. I mean, or the weekend. So we go into our mocap room. Our mocap room is probably about as big as this room. If you take that entire back corner, put up your typical 4 or 5 of these tables, it kind of looks like you took the Pathfinder brand and crossed it with everything you could buy at ChessX. And I come in on the weekends because I play kind of remotely with some friends in Atlanta, and I was like, oh shit, I don't even have to bring any books in because there's just stacks of them laying everywhere. So anyway, the kind of moral of this funny story is we're really big Pathfinder fans. I mean, we play this regularly, and we're at a point in our careers where we get to work in brands that we love and ones that we want to. So that you guys we would hope that you would trust us to be right by this thing that we think we all love together. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about.
So we're doing a digital card game.
Yes, after that long monologue, I'll talk about the products. So the first thing we're doing is actually a digital version of the Pathfinder Adventure card game. If any of you guys have a chance or you haven't seen it, we have a little corner satellite stand down in the corner of the Paizo booth. So Nathan, who was here earlier, is showing it off, and it should be pretty cool.
I'll be a little bit more effusive than that. It is super, super cool. They've done a really, really good job of kind of translating the card game onto a digital platform, and yet have it still kind of feel like a card game. You're kind of still tossing around cards. They've used a lot of the art from the Pathfinder brand and from Pathfinder card game, even improved it in many ways. I walked by the first day, saw a town scene or something from one of the cards. I said, wow, great, they really used our art, it really looks good. And then I saw some birds flying by the building, I'm like, oh, holy crap, they added cool little elements to it, and the gameplay looks like it's fantastic. And, it looks like a very faithful translation of the Pathfinder Adventure card game, but with, frankly, a lot more sort of visual bells and whistles than you can do in a printed two-dimensional.
Yeah, it really should give you the kind of goal is to really give you the experience that you have when you sit down and play. But I think the thing that we like about it is that if you've got a long bus ride home, or you've got you can kind of pick up and play whenever you want. I mean, there's always pros and cons to games like that versus the live game, or there's ones about really sitting down playing with friends. There is kind of just playing where and wherever you like, and so it's kind of the best of both worlds scenario.
And they're targeting a 2015 release.
Yeah.
And we'll do a Q&A following the presentation, but just to kill time, I'll ask the first question and let's see what Shane says. So what happens after that?
I can tell you.
Might as well rattle off some boilerplate.
Well, I can tell you, but then I'd have to ask her to kill you.
Yeah, fair enough. So we're really not ready to announce anything else, other than that the deal of the partnership that we have is for more than one game.
It's not a one-off. We're actually really happy to be here. We do look at it as a long-term partnership, and we're excited to play in the same sandbox as you guys.
All I can say is I think I have a trip to Southern California in the near future. Probably Eric too. Maybe Philly.
So that is, I think, the huge headline out of the show. Frankly, that's a really big step for us. We have always wanted to do computer games for Pathfinder. Lisa, who's been through this rodeo a few times before with brands like Vampire the Masquerade, Magic the Gathering, she sort of said, here's how it's going to work. assuming we continue to do our job correctly, year 1 or 2, you're going to get contacted by people who say, I want to make a film, of your stuff, and I'm a 14-year-old at the high school audiovisual class, saying we're going to pass. And then, someone says, I want to make a video game for Pathfinder, year 3 or so, and it's like, I think I could do it, and so we'll pass. And as we get progress, we get more higher profile people coming and approaching. It's not just for computer games, but for pretty much everything. And we've been pretty picky. Many of you know, and Lisa will talk about it a little bit later, but many of you know that we're also working on an MMO called Pathfinder Online. That's with a studio called Goblin Works that is composed of veterans from other MMO programs, and that it was brought to us by Ryan Dancy, a friend of the company's, and really a friend of everyone in this room, since he's the guy who invented the OGL. So, quick round of applause for Ryan. But so that's a sort of a special case, and when we started talking about the type of partner that we would want, it was always like, somebody like Obsidian Entertainment, like that. It wasn't like we would be able to get Obsidian because they're so good and they're so huge, but somebody like them. And then, sure enough, we got someone very much like them.
Boy, we sure fooled you.
Right. So it's really exciting to get to the point where the caliber of people who are coming to us are people that we know we can trust with the thing that we've. At this point, I think it's fair to say many of the people on the stage have dedicated a significant chunk of their lives to, and so it's really important to us that we have the right partners. That's true not just for computer games, but for any kind of media stuff, for toys, for miniatures, everything. We want to go forward with our partners with full faith that we're going to be able to develop and put out the best possible stuff. So I'm really looking forward to what we're going to be able to create together. Let's talk a little bit, Wes, about the adventure path.
So, James has already had his seminar, so some of you guys might have heard about this already, but we just, I think, yesterday announced the adventure path that we're going to be debuting at Gen Con 2014. So,
15.
2014 and beyond.
In the future.
And we're just modeling 2020 now.
Yeah, right. So we just released the first volume of the Iron Gods Adventure Path, and that's debuting here at the show. That's downstairs. That's going to take us through the early part of 2015. And at PaizoCon, we announced the Giant Slayer Adventure Path, and that's going to take us through the early to mid part of 2015. At the Adventure Path panel, we just announced our next one, which is the Hell's Rebels Adventure Path. This is going to be an adventure path that finally takes us back to the country of Cheliax and that diabolical, tyrannical nation. This is where you're having an opportunity to do what I think a lot of people have really been wanting to do since they first saw that right smack dab in the middle of the Pathfinder campaign setting is this evil, tyrannical nation actually trying to take this thing down. So, the adventure is taking place primarily in the city of Cantargo, which is up in the corner of, up in the northwest corner of the nation, and you're going to be playing rebels, and you're going to be, a few major events are going to happen at the beginning of this adventure path that are really going to, give everybody the motivation to be like, okay, this was the straw. This is the thing that is going to make us really start rising up against the Magistrix and the Hell Knights and the hellish imperial tyranny and whatnot. And throughout this adventure path, you're going to be playing these rebels and these total firebrands who are really rallying the people to finally throw off the shackles of this diabolical, tyrannical nation and finally taking down the whole tyranny in that part of the nation and having that have some sweeping ramifications for beyond that. So that's going to finally allow us to get back to what I personally think is one of the coolest parts of the Pathfinder campaign setting, which we've actually done woefully little with. So that's going to be changing here real soon.
Yeah, I think that we knew that as the sort of, in many ways, almost the primary antagonist nation in the Inner Sea region. We knew that eventually we were going to roll out a lot of information on Cheliax, but we wanted to make sure that we did it right. It's so important. And so the real opportunity was let's do it when we're going to have an adventure path focused on that region. I everybody's eyes are focused toward one area, it makes it that much better to do player companions and you know, campaign setting books and things like that set on that region. It's a maximum utility to actual campaigns, and that's really important to me. But it's, you know, a lot of people have been asking questions about that for a long time. So during the Hell's Rebels Adventure Path, we'll be doing a lot of stuff with Cheliax as well. We'll get back to Devils a little bit. We'll reveal, I think it's fair to say, more information about the Hell Knights than we've ever revealed before. One of the really cool things about the Hell's Rebels Adventure Path is it will contain in its 4th installment a milestone that if you had told me in 2007 we'd seriously be talking about, I would have probably laughed and then felt enormously relieved. And that is that Pathfinder number 100 is going to be the 4th installment of the Hell's Rebels Adventure Path. So for Pathfinder number 100, we've got a lot of special plans. It's going to be a thicker volume of Pathfinder. It's going to contain bonus content that harkens back to every single adventure path that we've previously.
Are we talking about any authors or content?
Well, I know that they've leaked that I'm writing something for it.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm writing an article about Eridan.
Oh, that sounds really
Yeah.
good. Are people
So-
interested in knowing more about Eridan?
So the dead god
From
the
Eric?
guy whose death, the guy I invented, whose death sort of created the modern era of the Pathfinder campaign setting, is going to get a full write-up in the Inner Sea Gods section, or likely the Inner Sea Gods book. But we've been reticent to do that because he's dead. You know, you can't really grant powers or anything. But that doesn't mean people aren't very curious. And this was at one time the preeminent religion in the entire region. And for that, something that would have had that much cultural impact, we've actually revealed relatively little information about him. My office campaign is totally about him and centers about him, so I have notebooks full of information about Eridan. I've been leaking some stuff this year in Occult Adventures, in my Thornkeep dungeon, and even in, to some degree, the Emerald Spire level that I did. And finally, I'm going to be able to put all that stuff together and kind of draw back the curtain on who Eridan is, in some ways, maybe more importantly, who Eridan was before he became a god, and then some more information maybe about why, how he died, maybe.
Yeah, check out issue 100.
Issue 100. I don't know if he's revealed it yet, but I'll spoil it if he didn't. The adventure itself is going to be written by James Jacobs, who has been really the architect of the adventure paths, even going, before Pathfinder even existed. You know, he came into the midway through basically near the end of Chapel City, the very first adventure path and dungeon. He and I orchestrated the entire Age of Worms adventure path, and then he did the Savage Tide adventure path, which was the last D&D one that we did. And then ever since, James has been a constant. He's the one person, I think it's fair to say, who's worked on every single volume of the Pathfinder adventure path. And so he wanted to do it, and we thought it was only fitting that one of our very best authors be the person who would get the honor of writing number 100. And the fact that it's James, who's been the chief architect of that line, I think just makes perfect sense. And I'm super stoked to see not only another James Jacobs adventure, but like what James Jacobs will do when he knows he needs to bring his A game for like a serious milestone. I guess I should say his A+ game, because I feel like James always brings his A game. There's going to be, like I said, articles in there that harken back to every single adventure path we've done prior to that. That's 16 different adventure paths. It's going to look cooler and different and better than any Pathfinder adventure path before. It is, however, going to be the same, form factor to some degree. Well, for those of you who are like super bibliophile, like OCD-ites like myself, you'll be able to put it right next to number 99 and number 101, and it will not upset your eyes too much if you don't mind a thicker spine. But so we're really excited about Pathfinder number 100. Jason,
Yes.
why don't you hop us through a few of the hardcover books in the Pathfinder role-playing game line, starting with the Advanced Class Guide.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So we just released the Advanced Class Guide, and I hope many of you got the chance to get one here at the show, because apparently if you didn't, you're going to have to wait.
We brought more than we thought we would ever sell. Too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you haven't picked up the Advanced Class Guide, you should. It contains 10 brand new classes in it. These classes are hybrids of 2 other classes. So we took the Cleric and smashed it together with the Fighter and made the War Priest. We took the Barbarian and smushed them together with the Bard, aka the Barbarian, and made the Scald. So a lot of these classes take a little bit from each one of their parent classes and blends them together and then adds a new mechanical element to kind of tie them together to make a nice unified class. It's a kind of our answer to some of the more common multi-classing choices that people make, kind of like the Magus is, your fighter wizard. This allows you to kind of play one of those concepts and really kind of bring it to the table without having to kind of crib from two different classes and pick up a whole bunch of feats to make that. In addition to that, the book has a mountain of archetypes. Each one of the new classes gets 4 pages of archetypes. All of our existing classes, every single one of them, gets at least 1 page of archetypes. There's also, as a matter of fact, it gets exactly 1 page, not at least. Beyond that, there's new feats, new spells, new magic items, all the kind of bits and pieces you need to make these new classes a complete and fully usable part of your game. I won't belabor it too much more because I'm wagering most of you already have it. So that's the Advanced Class Guide. If you didn't get it here, it'll be in stores within days at this point, if it's not already. Oh, right. Well, in that case, you can get it from your local store at home, or you can order it from us through Paizo.com. The next book that's going to come out after that is Monster Codex. This 256-page book is something I'm pretty excited about, actually. The moment we were done with it, I printed out pieces of it to use for my home campaign, because boy, is it a time saver. So what we did with this book is we divided the book up into 20 sections, and in each section we look at one monster. One common iconic monster: goblins, orcs, trolls, fire giants, vampires, all those sorts of things. And in each section, we kind of give you a bit more about their ecology and society. We give you a spread worth of new rules for the monsters, like new feats, new spells, archetypes, things like that, depending on the monster and what makes sense for them. And then we round it out with 10 pages of stat blocks of variant versions of that monster. So you want to run a whole adventure that features troglodytes, and you're really excited about that, but you're really not looking forward to having to create 14 different troglodyte stat blocks, because you can't just keep throwing ordinary trog after ordinary trog after ordinary trog. Well, you can. I mean, the smell will kind of pile up. But you want to have your troglodyte rogue and your troglodyte shaman and your troglodyte, whatever leader, your king. We're going to give you all those stat blocks, so now you have them all at your handy disposal. For my example, there's a whole section on drow. That seems really handy when I just took my home characters to Zirna Canaan. That's going to make my life really, really easy and make his life really, really bad. I shouldn't have let you review that part before we send it off to the printer.
I know what I'm in for.
Yeah, all right. It's going to be great. So yeah, that book is due out in October. It's off to the printer, and we're really excited to get it to your hands. We'll be having previews of that as we get a little closer. Some of you may have seen some shots of it from the Paizo con banquet.
I think that book's going to see more use at the table by GMs than almost any other monster-related book that we've done. It's just so often, and it's such a time saver.
Yeah, if you're using one of the monsters in that book, it's going to be essential. It just makes your job so much easier. After that, we have a book coming out in December, the strategy guide, which was supposed to come out a little earlier in the year, but we pushed it back to make sure we would get it right. The strategy guide is a 160-page hardcover, so it's not as big as our other books. But the point of the strategy guide is to be that book that helps a new player learn to play Pathfinder. We got the beginner box, which is great for people who know nothing about a role-playing game and just want to get started. But if you're trying to bring somebody into your game to sit in at your table at home, it's a bit of a challenge to just be like, hey, welcome to this fun-filled game of fantasy adventure. Here's a 576-page book. Just read that. We'll be good to go. Get started. So the strategy guide is really, we view it as kind of your key to unlocking the mysteries of that gigantic book. So you use it in companion with that. It teaches you how to make a character. It teaches you kind of the ins and outs of how the game works. And does so in a very user-friendly sort of way. There's lots of sidebars, lots of tips, lots of pointers to various spots in the book where it's like, hey, want to know more about grapple? Go to this page. We're going to tell you the basics of it, but there's a lot of minutia that we're not going to cover, because if we did, it'd be a 576-page strategy guide, and that's not much of a strategy guide. So that's the strategy guide that comes out in December.
Can I say a couple things about that really quick? The first thing I think is the name might lead one astray. It's not an optimization guide.
No.
It's not about making super powerful characters. It's about learning the game, making characters in general, and also advancing characters. And then the second thing is because it's a lot more sort of primary in content than most of the stuff we do, it is geared much more towards sort of new players or players who want to kind of further their understanding of the rules. A lot of like super experts, and I imagine there are many in this room, this is aimed more toward the people you're going to want to recruit into your game than aimed at you specifically. And because of that, for those of you who have a Pathfinder RPG Alliance subscription, this will be what we call an opt-in product, which means that if you want it, you'll get all the benefits of your normal subscription. But we're not going to make, it's not just included in your subscription as a regular thing, because we know that, interestingly, a significant part of the audience of this are not subscribers because they don't play yet.
Yeah. We also learned through the beginner box.
Yeah, and then we did, yeah, exactly. So, anyway.
Good deal. So, in April we are coming out with a book called Pathfinder Unchained. Pathfinder Unchained is basically the rules team madly capering about a room going, what if we did this? It's our kind of chance to tinker with the game in a safe environment. We don't have to remake the game, we can just say, this system, we don't like that, let's do something different. And so it's a giant book of kind of optional rules that you can plug into your game. If you're tired of the way the action economy works, every character gets a move, a standard, a full round, a swift, an immediate, a free, a none, an attack opportunity. It's like you have 9 different actions you could take. What if you just had 2 instead? That sounds easier. But this isn't something we can just apply to the game in general because it has too many moving parts, and we don't want to force everybody to have to kind of relearn how to play. But if that's something that's interesting to you, you can run with it. In addition, the book has some re-envisionings of some of the classes that we find problematic. So the rogue's getting a revision. We're doing some exciting stuff with him where he's going to get an ability where every time he sneak attacks you, he can apply conditions to you, giving him some interesting new utility. We're going to redo the Barbarian so that you don't have to redo 18 pages worth of math every time you rage, which is very often. It's like, I want to play the character that gets really angry and beats stuff up. Let me do a bunch of math first. Makes sense. Math! That's about all the energy I have left for the show. And we've got a revised version of the Monk that has a full base attack bonus. And last but not least, we're doing a revised version of the Summoner, because it's broken. Yeah, I said it, it's broken.
That was my thing I added in. The Summoner's been banned from my campaign.
Yeah, it's been banned from a lot of campaigns, and it's one of those, it's a class that we love it for certain reasons, but the mechanical implementation of it is just not quite right, so we're going to take another look at that. Now, I know there's been a lot of people on the board saying, well, what about the fighter? What about this class? What about that class? What about this class? There's going to be something for every character in this book. For all of your melee-focused characters, like the fighter and barbarian and whatnot, there's a system of tactics where those characters can get a fatigue pool, and they can use these tactics to do additional things. And many of the cool things that they can get are tied to the feats that they have. So this is going to give the fighter an inherent edge because he's the one with the most feats. So if he, let's just say, and I don't assume this is sacred because I'm kind of making it up right now. We're still developing the system. But if you have the the run feat, and you have this, I don't know why you would, but let's just say you did. You might want to if you had this. If you were using this fatigue system, because if you did, you might be able to spend some of your fatigue and take an additional move during your turn. So that might make it worth it. And a lot of the other feats will have unlocks like that as well. So, we're going to have something in here for everybody. Some are going to get more focused than others, but, we're going to play around with a lot of different parts of the game, including the spellcasting systems. We're doing some new stuff with magic items. There's an entirely new way of looking at monsters. So Unchained is really just going to be kind of us experimenting and playing with it, and we hope you guys will come along for the ride. You can take bits and pieces of it and plug it into your game, or you can grab the whole thing and just shove it in and go, wee, it's all different.
It's right that there's some of the stuff in there is like full on. You can replace like the action economy, where that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And they have changes that go all the way down the system. But a significant amount of material in this book we can just throw in your game.
Yeah. Like our super detailed revised encumbrance system. All right, I'll cut it.
What is it?
I was going to spend 14 pages on that. Oh, all right, yeah. We'll see what I can do.
Hit locations.
So that's Pathfinder Unchained. Next summer's book, releasing at Gen Con 2015, will be a book called Occult Adventures. Occult Adventures allows us to explore the more mysterious and secretive parts of the game in the world. One of the big things that's going to be in this book are 6 new psychic magic classes. There was the ooh I wanted. Took a sec. The title doesn't quite get you there, but that'll do. This is not going to be us taking the 3.5 psionic system and porting it into Pathfinder. We're really happy with what Dreamstart has done on that. We're not going to step on their toes.
Are you guys all familiar with Ultimate Psionics? Yeah.
We're going to let them keep doing their thing. We're going to do something entirely different. For us, so there's not going to be power pools and noving psychic characters for those of you concerned about that. We're kind of doing some really interesting things. There's going to be 6 classes in it. We're going to be playtesting those very soon. I'd love to talk to you guys an awful lot about it, but I think I'm going to keep a lot of that under wraps right now. Suffice to say, there's going to be like spiritualists and mediums and telepaths and things like that. In addition, the book is going to contain a lot of system notes and materials for things like chakras and ectoplasm and all that sort of stuff, allowing you to kind of take your game and make it mysterious and dark and weird.
Can I brag about you for a second?
Okay.
And also a little bit about myself.
Yeah, if you I'll let you brag about it.
I've been really involved in this book because it's something that's really important to me, like the getting the sort of psychic side of the puzzle correct. You know, I've always been personally intrigued by the fact that there's been psionics rules in Dungeons and Dragons, for example, but I never ever have really liked the execution. It's always bothered me that I had to learn like a whole new game system on top of this 600-page game system that I spent most of my life memorizing. And so thematically, I'm pretty interested in that material. And so I'm kind of like helping out the design team with some conceptual stuff and some ideas. And we're also brought in one of our favorite freelancers, Brandon Hodge, who wrote Rasputin Must Die, and he's right here. Brandon is, I think it's fair to say, the preeminent planchette collector in the United States, and has a Ouija board collection. I used to think I had a Ouija board collection until I met Brandon. He and I are sort of into esotericism and all that kind of stuff, and so we talk about that a lot. And then I involved also James and Wes and kind of the whole creative staff, and then put it on the hands of, created a big outline, and through that, just conceptual outline, more of like a think piece, make sure this is in it, make sure this is in it, make sure this is in it. They had their own ideas of cool stuff that they could put in it, and we just had a meeting here at Gen Con on, is it Thursday night over at St. Elmo, where the design team, Brandon and I sat down, we kind of went over all the classes and kind of what we're going to put in the book, what type of magic items are going to be in the book, what types of spells, you know, really what the theme of the book was all about. And I don't think I've ever been more excited about Paizo's design team than I was coming out of that meeting. We had great contributions. This book is going to be insane. Not just insane in that it has a bunch of insane shit in it, because it does, but it's insane because, like, I'm really excited about it from a game design perspective. If you look at kind of what we've been doing game design-wise in terms of the class space, it's like going just backwards from what you've already talked about here. Pathfinder Unchained, the classes part of that, we're going to take some classes we've already done and kind of modify them and fix them and all that. You go back one step further and you get into the Advanced Class Guide. Advanced Class Guide is great. It's got all kinds of super innovative design, but as a wellspring, it's taking 2 existing classes, putting them together, refining them, making them awesome. The Occult Adventures book, I think, is going to be a little bit more like, in some ways, the philosophy of the Advanced Player's Guide, where it's like, let's take the concept, and maybe there isn't existing mechanics for this yet. Maybe there's something totally new and totally unique that we want to do. And some of the concepts that were coming out of that meeting that we had, or some of the concepts that we refined at that meeting, because we've been talking about it for a long time, really make me think seriously that, you know, there's a lot of legs mechanically in Pathfinder. You know, we're not running out of ideas. There's tons of cool stuff that can still be done. So I think Stephen Randy McFarlane, Logan Bonner, Jason, and our new addition, Mark Seifter, who's just like this crazy robot genius guy who knows the rules as well as Jason.
Careful.
And has really brought an infusion of kind of new and creative ideas to the team and the company as well. And I cannot wait. Super enthusiastic. I hope you guys are going to love it as much as we already do, even though it's pretty much not been written yet.
Yeah, that's basically it. We're in the middle of the design for it now. We're hoping to do an open play test in the coming, I would say, months. It's going to be soon, but I don't want to lock down a date just yet. If you come to the seminar that's right after this, the Pathfinder RPG Rules Seminar, we'll be talking a bit more about it, and we may even spill the beans on a couple classes.
Great.
But for now, all you need to know is that somewhere in the book there's going to be a magic item that is something akin to a tinfoil hat.
All right. Lots of conspiracy theory and stuff in this book as well. Okay, so that kind of brings us as far as I think we're willing to talk about the RPG line.
Oh yeah.
There will be one more RPG book or a hardcover book in the winter.
In the winter of next year,
2015.
yeah, of course.
But there's also going to be one more hardcover book in general. And this is a book called Inner Sea Races. It's in the campaign setting line. And Wes, I'd love you to talk about that a little bit if you'd like.
Really, I have to follow that act? We can't talk about the card game next? So, how many of you guys are familiar with Inner Sea Gods? Did you guys dig that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we were very excited to try doing a hardcover of the campaign setting line just a few months ago. Something that we haven't done since the Inner Sea World Guide, and know how much you guys love the campaign setting and that huge treatment of it. So it's like, well, let's see if we can blow out some of the other like major details about Golarion. So the big shtick with Inner Sea Gods was like, well, we've got all this great information about the gods. Let's cover the deities, give you a whole bunch of new insights into their places in the world, in Golarion, how people interact with their deities and whatnot. But then let's add into that a whole bunch of new rules elements and other cool stuff that you can actually, as players, actually interact with, and so on and so forth. So really making it a GM resource as much as it is a player resource. That's gone over really well, and I'm really happy that all of you guys have done that. So since that experiment seemed to go over well, we decided, hey, let's try it again. So in the early to mid part of next year, we're looking at bringing out Inner Sea Races. This is taking another element of the Pathfinder campaign setting that a lot of both GMs and players are really fascinated by, and really just opening up the door on all of those. So what we're going to be doing is a treatment that in some ways is similar to the Advanced Race Guide, where you've got like your primary classes like elves and dwarves and telling you about them, and then some secondary classes, so like dwarves and orids and ifrits and genie kind and tieflings and so on and so forth, telling you about them.
Did you say dwarves?
Oh, did I say dwarves?
Yeah.
You son
I'm
of
fine
a...
with it.
Well, let's be honest here. I thought I said orids.
The dwarf hate.
Anyways, yeah, we're all anyway, and then some third tier, a little more unusual classes or races that we've only just touched on, like some of the aliens that we've mentioned, like or like the changelings or Dampiers, stuff like that. But rather than doing a very kind of like general treatment, we really want to show you guys how these races live and are treated and what their cultures are in the context of the Pathfinder campaign setting. So each one of these have elaborate details on where you can find them, what their cultures are like, how prevalent they are, what they do, what they make, how they're distinctive, what their names are, just all those bits and pieces that you need as GMs to bring them alive in your world, but also as players to really feel like they're part of, that you're playing a character that comes from a specific culture. In fact, speaking of culture, we've even outlined it in such a way that every one of these races gets a very different cultural section that really highlights 4 or 5 different topics that are totally unique to them, like Varisians and their tattoos and the way that they have caravan lifestyles and are nomadic and are so on and so forth. That's really the first 2/3 of the book. The other last third of it is really new crunch for your players who are playing in the Pathfinder world and are a member of these races. As neat as all of these little elements are and as great flavor as they are, we wanted to really back that up with strong rule support and crunch for all of your players. So it's not just like, to give you guys a reason to maybe play a Varisian that has this detailed traditions of tattooing, or who has been a nomad who's traveled across the world, rather than just being like, yep, that's the thing I do, having actually rules back up for that. So a ton of new class options, ton of new details on these races. It's going to be a hardcover rule book at about 256 pages, and we're excited to bring you guys next late spring.
May. So we're starting to run out of time, and I want to make sure there's room for a Q&A. It turns out Paizo's grown so much, and we do so much stuff this seminar, maybe it should be 2 hours next year. But anyway, one last thing I want to cover before I let you guys ask what you're interested in. We've got the Pathfinder Adventure card game. It's been a huge thing for us as well. And here at this show, we're debuting the second campaign, the Skull and Shackles base set. That will have monthly adventure decks that plug into that. We've also started, right next door, in fact, the Pathfinder Society Adventure Card Guild, which is an ongoing persistent character card game campaign with weekly scenarios released to retailers free through Paizo.com, and then every month we'll bundle those things up as for sale scenarios, sort of like the current Pathfinder Society scenarios. That will run us through January because we're doing monthly adventure decks. Following that, we've just announced in February we're going to introduce another base set, which will be the Wrath of the Righteous base set. So that will introduce a whole bunch of new characters. It will introduce mythic rules to the card game, and the designers that we're working with, Mike Salinger and his team over at Orange Shark Games, are just giddy with excitement about the possibilities that will offer. And I wish I could show you guys, but Wayne Reynolds did a brand new cover for that with demons and iconic characters and stuff. And it might be one of my favorite Wayne Reynolds pieces that he's ever done. I think it's a fascinating piece. So we've got a lot of information about the adventure card game down in the booth. Skull and Shackles. Any of us would be happy to talk your ears off about that. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on it here. So we've got about 15 minutes. What do you guys want to know? Yeah.
I just remembered.
Sweet.
Will the publication of Psychic Magic allow you finally to publish a gazetteer for Casbah?
Well, that could open up the door for a lot of places.
Yeah. I think yes. Basically, I think one of the reasons we've always sort of said that psychic stuff is prevalent in Vudra, which is kind of the India analog. There you go. And also on the planet of Castroville, which is sort of our Venus analog, the pulpy Venus kind of stuff, with like ladies with antennas and stuff like that. And so yes, it's. I wouldn't say it is a harbinger of that necessarily, but it is one of the dominoes that needs to fall before we're able to kind of spread in that direction. One thing that's kind of maybe holding us back from that a little bit is there's still a tremendous amount of the inner sea that we haven't covered at all. Not a lot of information on Multhun or Isger or whatever. There's a lot of places still to cover, but we all are kind of starting to nudge in that direction with ourselves. Yes.
The inner sea race guide, it'll have ethnicities for the human.
Human actually gets the biggest write-up because we divide it into human and then all of the different ethnicities. So like Brisian, Kellen, Alvin, so on and so on. So we've got a big footprint.
Do each of those get the same amount as like Elf, or I can't remember?
I think they get a little bit
Almost the same amount,
less,
yeah.
It's
but
like if elves would if the EQJ or the Snowcasters.
Yeah.
yes, yep.
If we've mentioned it in a Pathfinder product, it's gonna
Yeah.
appear in some way.
Yeah, this is really meant to be your go-to source for races.
Remember? Sure? Okay.
Any chance of another adventure path with mythic characters?
Right now, it's not something that we've done too much talking about, but it's not off the table.
Who would like to see another adventure path with mythic characters in it? Okay, that's helpful. All right, great, thanks. And who would like to keep their hand up because they have a question? This distinguished gentleman with the green shirt.
On that topic, any talk about another kingdom building? AP.
Kind of the same answer. It's like, we're fascinated by it, and it's not off the table, but it's just not something that we've talked about. It's not one of the next three at this point.
My first assumption was that Hell's Rebels would have some kingdom building element to it, which obviously I was wrong.
Yeah.
We've been playing with it a little bit. We did some of the exploration stuff in Mummy's Mask. There's still some potential with that. With Hell's Rebels, since it's still in writing and not really all pinned down yet. Yeah, it's definitely a very popular tool and one that we're definitely going to be keeping in our toolbox.
You, sir.
Do you have any plans to do anything similar to the Emerald Spire Super Dungeon?
Emerald Spire 2, more Spire.
Scarlet Spire.
I would love to. The response has been phenomenal. I think all of us who participated in that program were sort of honored and sort of humbled a little bit by all the other people who got to work on that. Being able to write a level in the same dungeon as the guy, Frank Menser, who did the D&D Red Box, and Mike Stackpole, who I don't know if you guys remember those old Room Two's Traps books. I grew up with those, and he's got that in there. Not to say nothing of the people that I admire that are writing the most at Paizo are all in there as well, and so we loved it. It was extraordinarily disruptive, to our production schedule and everything, because it came out of that Kickstarter effort. We didn't really know how long it would be. It kept growing and stuff. And so I think if we did another sort of big standalone adventure, whether it be a dungeon or whether it just be a really cool, thick adventure, which is something we've also talked about, I think we would do it a little bit more deliberatively, a little bit more like it would take specifically the spot of another product or a couple of products instead of just being like, yeah, we could do another hardcover, it'd be great. Why don't we do a fifth one this year? So the issues with it are all project management related, which is really boring for a seminar, but thematically and just kind of conceptually, I think we would love to do something like that. And quite frankly, it looks to be selling really well. It looks to be people really are enjoying it, so that's always a good indicator of whether we'll do something again or not. So, how many people would like to see another big adventure kind of a deal? Okay, cool. Yay. Who would like to ask another question?
Who didn't raise their hand? Do they just not like fun?
Yeah. This guy's a hat.
They didn't do anything about the history of the Undersea, like way before Starfall and Age of Golarion, anything like that.
That's interesting. We've talked about it quite a bit. If you haven't checked out Occult Mysteries, we've got several sections at the beginning of that are mythology and how the elves say the world was created and how the dwarves say the Golarion was created and so on and so forth. So there's some of that touched on in there.
I'll ask for something maybe more concrete.
I want to know what Thassalon was like. Maybe that's pretty interesting. And actually, Eric's been playing a lot with that already.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot about Aslan. There'll be a lot of that in the Aragon article in Pathfinder number 100. That may end up being an Aslantean motherlode, the likes of which we've probably never done before, because there's going to be lots of information about kind of the last days of Aslan in that. But I think that's probably the primary type of, probably a better way to pronounce that word, place where you're going to get that type of information where it'll be like a little bit by inference because it's supporting something else. I don't think we'll probably do something where you go back in time or where we do a whole source book about Thassalon or something like that. No, never say never. In fact, at this point in time, with Pathfinder continuing to grow year after year and people being interested interested in it. I'll never say we'll never do anything, you know, I mean, like, I'm sure we'll do a Spassalon book at some point, but it's not in the schedule right now.
So I'll hold off my time travel campaign.
We will never do a Pathfinder tank.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So in the back, way in the back there, the guy with the beard.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry, we'll get you the guy with the lighter beard.
During your discussion about Occult Adventures, you mentioned that you didn't want to step on Dreamstar Press's toes
Yeah.
with their system.
Yeah.
Is that something that's specific just to that publication? Or
Pretty
is it
much.
in general?
I mean, well, no, I mean, the thing is, you know, we have to pay a little bit of attention to like what other parties, third-party publishers are doing, and because you know, especially stuff that's really popular, we don't want to have people buy stuff multiple times, and then I'm not looking to get into a creativity contest with a whole bunch of other creative people. The thing with Dreamsguard is they love that system. You know, they really embraced it. They've been able to deal with that system in a way that the people who like that system are really happy with and really satisfied with. I mean, if you're a fan of the Expanded Science Handbook for 3.5, you should get Ultimate Psionics because they did a really, really good job. I cannot count, I don't know there are any fans of Paizo of that system. We just don't like it, you know, and they've done a great job. We couldn't do a good job with that system because we don't play with it, we don't know it, we don't like it. So there's a company out there that does, so it's like, great, you know, go get it from them. We kind of want to do something a little bit mechanically more in line with the existing Pathfinder rules, and then thematically a little bit more, I think, rooted in, you know, it's funny to use the phrase, but like real world sort of occultism and you know, New Age stuff and you know, the astral projection.
Creepy.
It's creepy and fun and sort of weirdly almost like late 19th century. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be great. But that's very different thematically from their book. You know, their book has got, you know, just wazoo crazy shit. You know, it's like, it seems to me that to some degree, like the point of departure is like, hey, okay, let's say there's magic powers with your brain. Like, let's go from there. What could it be? And then it's just a bunch of just like cool ideas, right? Our stuff is going to be a little bit more in the same way that like the core Pathfinder game is rooted in the traditions of like pulp fantasy and sword and sorcery. We want to really kind of root thematically our psychic stuff with things that resonate with people, and so it feels part of the world and it feels kind of cohesive.
A little Penny Dreadful, a little less Professor X.
That's, oh my god.
Yes.
Marketing Shane. A little bit more Penny Dreadful, a little bit less Professor X. But also, I'm also like a pulp science fiction nerd, and I know that Professor X was inspired by Henry Kuttner's mutant novels, where all
Next question.
So I am going to try really hard to make sure that there is like some archetype or something where you're bald, you know, right? Not necessarily where you're bald. And then Mr. Lightbeard.
For the adventure card game, are there plans to kind of switch paths every year as well, or?
The current plan is to do a new adventure path like every 6 months and support it with monthly adventure decks. And that plan is largely predicated on the fact that this game is actually one of the most popular games that came out last year. And people are like, give us more, yeah, more. And we're like, okay. And one of our sort of philosophies, like my business philosophy that I often say at the office, people are probably sick of it, is if you give the people what they tell you they want, they will trade you money for it, you know? It's really crazy, but it's kind of amazing how easy it is to and so right now people are like, yeah, more ACG, and because it's a new business for us, I think we're kind of watching it pretty closely. And if at some point they start going, you know, we'll slow it down a little bit, but that's kind of where we're at. And I don't know how people would actually make that weird sound. Okay, another couple of questions. I want to go right up to the edge because we talked for an awful long time. Yeah, Jeff.
One of the other things I think of when I think of like the occult old school style of psychics is that immediately my thought also jumps to Raspberry, and I know that's arcane, but the whole, we don't know what's actually real, and is there charlatanism, how much of it is stage show, how much of it is unreliable?
Yes. Okay. Wait. There's going to be elements of that in the book, right? I mean, so there's going to be elements of like, yeah, there are fakers out there, right? I mean, but at the same time, yeah, if you take one of these classes, you're not a faker, right? You know, there's going to be 6 classes in there. Yeah, you're not going to be faking if you have any one of those. There's some crazy stuff in there.
Let's get one more question, maybe 2 if we're fast. Anybody got a lightning round question? Yes, this guy in the hat.
Are the
what you guys are working on with Obsidian, are you guys going to be following what they released for the actual adventure card game? Or are you guys going to be doing some of your own expansions?
As far as I can tell right now, it's the plan is to follow up the week.
Yeah, the plan currently is to follow what they're doing. That's what we're currently doing. So if we want to go further than that, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I think you guys are kind of similar in the sense of like paying real close attention to what people are asking.
Yeah,
saying,
absolutely.
So we're gonna gauge it and see how it goes, but I think we all feel like the sticking with the main Rise of the Boomers thing is really great. So we'll see where it goes from there. And then there's still more time for questions. Yes, sir, in the white.
Are we getting another Goblin Adventure for free RPG Day?
I kind of hope so. That'd be I really like those. And it seems like you guys
We
do too.
still be out.
Yeah.
It was something, wasn't it like week 3?
Yeah, I think we're gonna do maybe week 3 goblins. You know? Week 3 goblins too. And the funny thing is, it'd be 4 characters. That's not a formal announcement yet. It's something we've been tinkering with. We haven't really honestly decided what we're gonna do for but a round of enthusiastic applause. Thanks for your comments. Yes, sir.
Actually, this is a question about the Pathfinder Legends that you guys.
Oh, great! Yeah.
Like Big Finish.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any more plans for more audio adventures, and what campaign would you do with?
We just talked to them before the show, and where they're at right now is they're about halfway through Rise of the Rune Lords. And so I think they want to get kind of all the way through it and kind of see how it's sold and how it's going, and then they'll decide what they're going to do next. And that could be anything. That could be from another adventure path to maybe some shorter, dramas with maybe fewer characters or whatever. Or maybe it will be nothing if people aren't buying it. But if you're all familiar with the Pathfinder Legends, do you know what that is? Big Finish, a company that's best known for continuing the adventures of some of the classic Doctor Who characters through audio dramas. They're a British company. They were here at Gen Con a couple years ago. We met them. They were really intrigued by Pathfinder. We were huge Doctor Who nerds, many of us. And so it was, again, kind of a match made in heaven. And they've been producing Rise of the Rune Lords in serialized single CD, basically 1 hour long audio dramas. So it's like listening to a TV show, basically. There's sound effects, in-character dialogue, music. It's really quite, it's amazingly professionally done. They do a fantastic job with Doctor Who, and they do a fantastic job with Pathfinder. And it's certainly my hope that we keep on rolling with them, because they're fun to work with and they're really good stuff. We have 1 minute, one more question, and someone who hasn't asked one. You, sir.
All right, real quick, I was a huge fan of your adventure path in terms of some of the different cultural tropes there, but would you ever do an Aztec or like one based off like China, like a Kung Fu kind of theme? I know you guys did the Jade region, which is almost more like a Japanese.
Yeah.
The short answer is
yes. And I say the answer is yes, because I honestly, we've done 100 of these now, right? And now I'm sort of thinking we'll probably do 100 more, so it's probably foolish to say no. It would be a while, so if you take Aztec, like our assumption is that there are sort of Aztec-inspired type kingdoms in Arcadia, kind of like the continent that sort of stands in for the Americas in our world. And we've done all less detail on that than we have the polar ice caps, so like sometimes we kind of want to know where we're headed a little bit before we launch into that, but yeah, we'll do all that stuff. Maybe in like 20 years, but we'll do it. And with that, we will see you guys here in 2034 and beyond. Come back.